The Birdcage is not the kind of comedy that lets you relax. It makes you laugh while you are still bracing for impact, because every smile comes with a timer ticking underneath it. A home turns into a stage, a simple dinner turns into a performance, and love turns into choreography. The whole movie moves with that perfect breathless rhythm where one wrong line could blow the room apart. But underneath the warm colors and the big performances, the pressure was real. Nathan Lane took the biggest risk of his career before The Birdcage even reached theaters. Agador was not the original plan. He was rebuilt from pieces until the movie found its secret weapon, and it almost came back until one word shut the door. These are 13 weird facts about The Birdcage, the comedy that feels like comfort while it tightens the knot one perfect beat at a time. Number 1. Most directors chase names. Mike Nichols chased timing, the kind that makes the joke hit, then lets the emotion hit harder. That is why Nathan Lane became his first obsession. Nichols saw Lane on Broadway and knew Albert could not be funny. Albert had to be precise, musical in his rhythm, volcanic in his feelings, tender, then suddenly furious, then terrified, all in the same breath. Lane fit that shape perfectly. The problem was brutal and simple. Lane was already committed to a major Broadway revival with schedules locked and lives already arranged around him, so he turned the movie down. In a normal Hollywood timeline, that is where the story ends. Nichols kept calling anyway. Different cities, different days, different time zones. The message never changed. He would meet other actors, watch them try, and the moment the scene ended, he would think the same thing again. It is still Lane. At one point, he was calling from overseas, including Ireland, still trying to pull the role back into Lane's hands. It was not flattery, it was a director refusing to accept a second-best version of his own movie. Eventually, Lane gave him the only move left. If you want this to happen, talk to producer Scott Rudin. Nichols did. The Broadway production adjusted, schedules shifted. The conflict that looked impossible on paper quietly dissolved. Lane stepped into Albert, and the role did exactly what Nichols believed it would do. It did not just make the film funnier, it gave it an emotional engine strong enough to survive the farce. Nichols got his Albert, Lane got the spotlight and the risk that came with it. Number 2. In 1996, this was not a normal studio comedy booking. Playing Albert meant stepping into a spotlight Hollywood still treated like dangerous heat. Lane was already openly gay in his real life, but film fame is different. Fame turns private life into public property, and Lane knew the ugly version of that story. The movie hits, everyone laughs, and then the industry quietly decides you are a headline, a symbol, a type instead of a talent. That fear was not just emotional, it was practical. Lane worked constantly for a reason. His mother lived with bipolar disorder, and her care depended on him. So a career slowdown was not an inconvenience, it was a financial cliff. If controversy made studios nervous, it wouldn't just bruise his ego, it could hit his family. Then the promotional machines started rolling and the anxiety stopped being theoretical. The studio booked a full episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show to spotlight the film, millions watching, easy laughs, bright lights, and then the conversation drifted toward the exact edge Lane dreaded, the kind of curious question that can reframe a performance into a personal interrogation. Lane later described the moment as terrifying because you can feel how fast a talk show can stop being about the movie and start being about you. Still, he did not run. He stayed in the role, carried the stress quietly, and delivered a performance so alive it became impossible to reduce into a label. And when the movie finally opened, the thing he feared most did not happen. The controversy did not swallow the film. Instead, the film swallowed the doubt. That is what makes the risk feel real in hindsight. Nichols fought to cast him. Lane thought to survive what casting him might unleash. Number 3. Most people assume Robin Williams took The Birdcage because it let him go big, loud comedy, big emotion, the kind of performance that takes over a room. but he pushed for the opposite role on purpose because he didn't want to repeat himself after Mrs. Doubtfire. The obvious casting was Williams as Albert, bigger, flashier, more theatrical. Williams saw the trap. If he played Albert, the movie risks feeling like the same headline in a different outfit, so he fought to play Armand instead, the part that forces restraint. Armand is not built for showmanship, he's built for control. He's the man trying to keep everything tasteful while the night turns into a slow collapse. The comedy does not come from what he does, it comes from what he refuses to do. That pressure is the joke. Mike Nichols wanted that exact energy. He wanted Armand polished, elegant, and quietly vibrating with panic underneath. Nichols called it suppressed hysteria, and Williams nails it by keeping the storm inside the smile. Every polite line sounds like it's holding back a breakdown. That one decision sharpens the whole movie. With Williams playing control, Nathan Lane's chaos hits harder. The farce gets cleaner, the stakes feel real, and the laughs land because nobody is doing comedy. They're just trying to survive a night that keeps getting worse. Now, put those two forces in the same room and keep the movie from flying apart. Number 4. Robin Williams and Nathan Lane together could turn one scene into 10 fast. Mike Nichols' job was making sure it still played like one movie, so he built a rule that sounds almost too strict for a mid-90s studio comedy. Every scene had to be played exactly as written first. Clean, straight, no detours, no riffs, no extra lines tossed in just because the room felt hot. Nichols wanted the scripted version locked, because once the foundation is solid, you can let chaos hit without the farce collapsing. Only after he was satisfied would he allow one wild take. A single run where Williams and Lane could chase whatever instinct hit them in the moment. Some of those takes were so funny the crew could barely function, but Nichols was ruthless about what stayed. If an improv moment pulled attention away from the emotional spine, it died in the edit, no matter how hard it made people laugh. The real trick, though, is that most of the improvisation never happened on camera at all. Nichols insisted on weeks of rehearsal, which is rare for that era, and that's where the chaos was allowed to burn. Williams and Lane improvised endlessly, tested bits, stretched scenes, found rhythms. Then Nichols quietly pulled the strongest material back into the script so it could be shot with control. By the time filming started, it played almost like a stage farce, with tight pacing and clean coverage, because the mess had already been mined for gold. Hank Azaria later put it perfectly. By the time cameras rolled, they had basically got it out of their systems. That discipline mattered most for Williams because his instinct is always to keep going, to keep finding new buttons. Nichols didn't crush that instinct, he contained it, then released it only when it served the story. That is why the movie feels alive without feeling messy. Nichols let the chaos exist just long enough to capture the heat, then locked it back into structure before it could burn the whole house down. The problem was the jokes landed so hard, the man calling action kept losing it. Number 5. Williams later said Nichols would sometimes laugh so hard during takes that the crew had to protect the shot from the director himself. Not with a polite cough or a quick step back, they literally covered him up because his laughter was visible, shoulders shaking, breath giving him away, the kind of uncontrollable reaction that can ruin an otherwise perfect take. The scene that did the most damage was the toast smear moment, where the outdoor patio turns into a social war zone, and the comedy is coming from panic, manners, and everyone trying not to explode. Don't use the spoon, and don't dribble little dots of mustard. No, and you smear. Men smear, that's it. Get the goddamn pinky down. All right, make your fingers like iron. All right, hold the knife boldly in strength. I'm going to pierce the toes. Nichols couldn't keep a straight face, so the crew's solution was blunt and hilarious. Hide the director, keep rolling, get the take before the laughter infects everybody else. And once that energy is on set, it spreads. During the dinner meltdown, William slips and goes down out of frame. It looks like a perfect physical gag, like a planned beat in a stage farce. It was not planned, it was a real fall. And what makes it unforgettable is how fast Williams recovers, pops back up, and keeps the scene moving like nothing happened. The cast barely holds it together. Hank Azaria later admitted he was laughing on camera and had to play it off like tears. Nichols tried to run a precision machine. The movie kept turning into a live grenade in his hands. Number 6. Early on, the Birdcage was still shaped more like the French farce it came from. The household staff was not one chaotic presence yet, it was two separate roles, and one of them followed the original template, a black butler, a familiar figure in the old structure of rich house comedy. David Alan Grier was attached to play that part, and by every account, he was killing it in the early room. Funny, sharp, fully in control. The problem was